tried to add them anyway, even before anything meaningful like a functioning school. Or what about a place to torture kidnap girls? Made its way into the game back in 2015 and is still there. And don't even ask me about all the stuff that you promised to HM. But there's also one very little elephant in the room, which is older than any playable build of a game. You see, characters in the game are obviously school children, meaning that most likely they're underage. In better days, Alex used, well, they're seniors, most of them are 18, excuse. Or the usual blanket of, well, the characters are 18, even if otherwise is specified. The problem is that, yeah, it was specified in the game that there are first, second, and third year classes, which according to Japanese school system means that most of the students cannot be 18. But what is way worse, it's been specified multiple times by Alex himself in the early threads that students were underage, meaning that none of them is 18, not a single one. And even though that maybe this excuse works well for Yandere Simulator's fanbase, because they're even younger, for some reason, Alex wasn't able to fool neither Reddit nor Twitch, which happened right after he stated this in his interview with Vice. Yeah, suddenly all those years of defending panty shots get a really dark turn, don't you think? Alex obviously knows that those are merely excuses that don't hold any water. So in the end, he came up with a brilliant idea, which belongs on the same page with, she's 2,000 years old vampire dragon alien, I swear. In a desperate attempt to get his game unbanned, Alex left hints that the school is not a school at all. It's just a LARP camp for people who miss school, and this is why they dress like students, go to classes, visit clubs, get bullied, go on a date with an older man to get the money their family needs instead, I don't know, getting a job or something, or get punished for misbehaviors. But otherwise, they're totally legal. I'm not going to go into the number of places it absolutely destroys established lore. And no, it's not just another way to add some mentally challenged exposition to the plot, when Alex himself admits that it's just another attempt to bypass censorship on Twitch. So in the end, we have a bunch of totally not underage, I swear, I mean look at them, it says they're all 18, high schoolers getting graphically disposed of, or in situation with adults that can get you into
moving pretty quick there, why don't you have a seat right over there?
Scenario. I'm not even talking about the original way to get favors in the game, which Alex desperately tried to cover for years afterwards. Speaking of which, the protagonist, who is a second-year student and again cannot be 18, was almost exposed to the genius game design of showing her underwear right into the player's face. I mean, Alex spent enough time adding all of those undies into the game, so of course he wants you to see them in all their glory. It didn't make it into the game thanks to very vocal 11%, or rather Alex's lack of technical skill, since later Backlash didn't stop him from badly ripping off Yakuza series. Although in the end, he managed to come up with something that was somehow even worse. But when Alex doesn't do something inappropriate with his characters in his game, he does it in the games of other people. In 2016, Alex announced a collaboration between his game and the game called Crush Crush, which looked innocent enough at first, since it was simply a dating sim without anything 18+. Well, until they released an uncensored DLC, which gives you access to lingerie, birthday suits, pinups, and of course, adult scenes. Alex, who's never been a stranger to something like this, of course couldn't miss the opportunity to be inappropriate with his own underage protagonist, and probably left a good review on Steam.
I made you, I can you.
But he didn't stop there, and in 2017, agreed to add Ayano to a street poker game. In fact, he was so enthusiastic about it that he got in contact with its creator and even gave some rather questionable suggestions, including voice lines for the protagonist. Then, in 2020, characters from the game appeared in a hentai game Project Cutie, and something called
Boobs in the City.
So Yandere Simulator is not a fetish game, but its only known collaborations are with something like this?
Really makes you think.
So, I think the ages of the characters in the game are out of the question. But what about people who are playing it? Well, just like in the previous case, Alex likes to pretend that most of his audience is mature adults, when reality hints in a completely opposite direction. During another round of YouTube making lives of everyone on their platform even more miserable, Alex, like many other creators, released a video where he said that his channel is not for children, and then reassured himself that most of his audience are adults anyway by showing this graph from his YouTube analytics. And why would anyone doubt that? I mean, there are literally no benefits from setting your age above 18 on YouTube, you know, besides watching age-restricted content, which at this point can be attributed to 90% of the videos from Alex's channel. But since Alex likes statistics, let's take a look at this piece of data. This is an archive of 2 polls he made back in 2015. The first one was called, How old are you? And even there, Alex found a way to manipulate things, since instead of having options like 16, 18, and 18 and more, it was 16 to 20. So there is hard to tell how many of the people who voted for that are actually under the age of 18. However, even if we split them 50 by 50, the picture wasn't very good. Almost half of his fans were underage, and only 26% could be considered adults for certain, if they didn't lie about their ages either. The other poll was, What is your gender? And unsurprisingly, almost half of the participants were females. He posted the same polls next year, and the situation wasn't much better. Now with even more participants and the same tactics, only 13% of the voters could be considered adults for sure, while 51% were from 11 to 15 years old. And now half of his fans were female. Later, Alex justified his portrayal as a cute anime girl in Hate and Shame by saying, Most of my audience is female, so at the very least, this part has been confirmed by him. But to be fair, he has a hard time hiding the other part too. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Since then, his fanbase has grown up, which is pretty much inevitable after all those years.
That's time you'll never get.
But seriously though, do you really want to tell me that Alex's adult fanbase couldn't deal with the simple email instructions for over 2 years, thus putting him on the verge of a complete and utter meltdown?
Please stop sending me stupid emails.
Why would he put so much emphasis on bad art and 3D models that people kept sending him and require professional level quality for free, of course, if the people who didn't get this and contacted him anyway were very far and few in between?
When was the last time you saw a video game with artwork that looked like this?
Okay, as it turns out, that example was a recolor, so there was probably nothing of sorts, and he was just too afraid to receive something like this. Or did he? Okay, that's enough! Oh god, they're still coming. Okay, maybe those are from 2015. Oh no. Oh boy, those 15% are everywhere. Keep in mind that the statistics from Alex's video and the contest were just a year apart, so it only confirms what I already stated. And maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time believing that 35-55 demographic is interested in never-ending development of a game about children reenacting music video for Die Slow by Hells at their school.
What was the biggest lie you were told?
The majority of my audience is composed of adults.
Unless they are the type of people who should never be mixed with children in any capacity. Unsurprisingly, the fanbase consists almost entirely out of impressionable children, as next to zero problems in defending such things as mature women seducing a young boy, or forcing yourself on someone, or even selling people into slavery of all sorts. As you may have guessed, they have an easier time defending panty shots, or the graphic contents of the game. There are just too many of those, I can't even show you everything I found. Even universally disliked idea of Ayano killing a cat had its fair share of defenders, for God's sake. But sadly, by defending the contents of the game, namely ages of the characters who perform all the questionable stuff, even if it happens in other games of more adult direction, fans of the game slowly move into very dark territory of questioning all these ideas in real life, including parodying Alex's idea of license for sex. And then it goes even further when they go for, it's okay unless you're hurting someone, while some of them think exactly about hurting someone, just like Yandere. Of course, some of them don't need any influence and just bring their terrible views to the perfect soil, like someone named Dreamscar Gaming, or Dreamscar1, who is not only a hardcore defender of Alex, but is also someone who calls himself a map. It has absolutely nothing to do with terrain images. It is way worse. When he doesn't spend his time defending Alex on his subreddit, he tweets about such marvelous things like the ones you can see on your screen right now. Some of them are straight from Alex's mouth. But Alex has no control over people who are attaching himself to his fanbase. Yeah, no, he does, considering his lawful censorship. But do you know what he has a full control over? Or at least almost full control according to his own statements. His own actions, like using edited image from one incredibly unholy manga. I'm not even going to touch upon the contents of that abomination. Just take a brief look at the text from that filth. Or going around and liking Nazi for Work fan art. I mean, maybe he just wanted to praise his fans and show them his appreciation, right? Or him acting like this.
Sexy, how sexy do you think it would be if she zipped down those zippers? Imagine the unzippage. Oh, imagine it.
And Tamaki is 16, 17 years old, by the way, but we've already established that Alex doesn't care. But you know who's even younger?
I'll miss you. I'll miss all of you sweet little kittens.
What is wrong with you?
Sure thing it was only one time. Also, one little thing that Alex had absolute control over was the art contest that he held back in 2015. You know, the one where he told his fanbase, which as we already established cannot consist of mature adults, to join protagonists of the game who cannot be 18 either, as Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5. If you have no idea who this is, Alex was kind enough to leave those tasteful references. Yeah, I think you can see a problem with that dry idea. And boy oh boy if his fanbase didn't disappoint. Some of the contributions were so borderline not safe for work that I'm not even sure that I can show them here. And Alex's comments about those were sometimes so questionable that I'm surprised that nobody tried to call him out all those years ago. The contest in 2021 wasn't much better either, since not only he had a ton of drawings with minors and questionable situations without an appropriate tag, it was flooded with gore that had clearly been drawn by children, and you should be able to tell that from one single look at it.
Who are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
But at least Alex had no ability to censor this one, and it finally led to some quality submissions.
Oh my god. I get it.
And what's worse, it seems that behind closed doors, Fortnite agent, Alex's behavior gets even creepier. Back in 2015, one ex-volunteer claimed in a 4chan post that people were leaving the team in droves because they either find out about his past activities or were creeped out by his behavior. Okay, if you don't like this, here's another one from a place of New Zealand enjoyers. The author stated that Alex immediately asked for the incredibly lewd stuff instead of, I don't know, something that would push his game a little closer to the release window.
There's no such thing.
And if even this wasn't enough, good old Wunkalo gave a longer answer about why he left Yandere Simulator team.
Well, that's just as fascinating as the first 89 times you told me that.
Back in 2017, which boiled down to, he asked me to create lewd assets non-stop while using adult games as references, and acted extremely creepy and thirsty on his secret streams.
Look at that butt. Look at that butt. There's a guy in a factory, and his entire job is to spend all day long polishing and butts. He polishes them with his tongue, and his name is Yandere Dev.
Which I can't believe, since Alex hasn't changed at all.
What's this? There appears to be a wet spot on your panties. Oh my, is someone aroused? You're a dirty, naughty little chat room, aren't you? A perverted little chat room. You've been thinking dirty thoughts the entire time I've been streaming, haven't you? How very naughty of you. You're a bad, bad chat. You need to be punished. You need to be spanked. You need to be taught who your daddy is.
But that's also raises another question. If Alex creeped out so many people by his behavior, then who's been working on Yandere Simulator since? And the answer to that question comes from none other than Wunkalo himself. Wunkalo. Again, in his posts from 2015 and 2017, he quotes parts of Alex's email that he sent to him after he left Yandere Simulator team, and those were enlightening.
The GUI artist I'm working with is the same man who suggested female students should be able to wear thong uniforms. The musician I'm working with spends hours in my stream every day, and he makes even more lewd comments about female game characters than I do. The voice actress I'm working with has extremely lewd voices in her demo reel. The 2D artist I'm working with regularly draws women in extremely lewd outfits. The 3D character modeler I'm working with enjoys modeling sexy young women very much. I'm a perverted sexual deviant, and I absolutely love to perv on sexy video game girls and anime girls. That's a core part of who I am, and I'll openly, publicly, and eagerly state that fact absolutely anywhere. If lewd, perverted content and comments offend you, and you'd rather not be associated with that kind of project, I understand completely, and I can't hold a grudge against you for that. It simply means that I need to seek out team members who aren't bothered by that type of content or those types of remarks. I've already found 5 other perverts. Now I just need to find one who can model props and environments and doesn't care what I did 5 years ago.
Speaking of a man named responsible for this official art of Senpai's sister, which Alex gladly used in every thread while strongly hinting that it's not going to be just a clingy sister who wants her brother to stay single. Way worse than that. He also mentioned that their relationship weren't purely professional, and you know from Wunkalo what exactly does this mean. And speaking of artists, Alex was perfectly fine with people like Komi Senpai and Kiech working for him. First was behind male rival concept arts that he used in April's Fool's video, but aside from that she made, well, oh god. Oh god.
This area must be cleansed with orbital fire!
Kiech not only made concept art for regular rivals that Alex used in the introduction video, but also was the man behind almost every character image on the game's website, even though he admits that quite a bit of work was already done by IA. And it wouldn't be the problem if not for the fact that you can clearly see the influence of his other works in them, especially in the upper section, even in those that were shelved in the end. Not to mention that all of these had to be approved by Alex to be published there, if not directly told to be drawn this way. But those two came and went, or not really since Alex gave Komi a shout out in 2020, while one other artist has been by Alex's side for all those years. I'm talking about Mulberry, and what happened boggles me to this day. You see, back in 2018, in the height of the Special Olympics called I Can Make Yandere Simulator But Good, there was one project called Limerence. It had a much smaller scope, since it was planned to be a visual novel, and it had many themes that would have pleased Tumblr and Twitter crowds. But surprise, surprise, it went nowhere and died. But what is interesting is how it died. It seems that one of Alex's volunteers infiltrated the dev team and leaked design documents. It was bad by itself, but what Mulberry allegedly did afterwards was something else. According to witness accounts, she threw the protagonist in some not safe for work situation with Limerence written on her hip. The problem was that this character was underage. When she was told about this, she said it was her original character and that she had no idea what Limerence was. Luckily for our eyes, there are no traces of this art left, just people people's recollection, but still, no matter if she did it out of her own volition or because Alex has asked her, it raises so many questions, especially if you take into account that she had no problems with either drawing boobs for Alex to please him or draw him with boobs because he asked to. Unsurprisingly, Mulberry has been seen hanging out with fetish artists, one of which turned out to be way closer to Yandere Simulator than I thought. Meet Nitropunk arts, or Scream Punk arts, or Dream Punk arts, or Rinsatsu, or Rinchan. I will call you Nitropunk, who is credited as a voice behind Musume's father, if it even means something by this point, and contributes some Yandere Simulator related art from time to time. What art? Well, I will let site's description to speak for itself.
Damsel in distress. Bondage